I knew I had to fight again because I had to get that gremlin out.
Especially when you know what you're capable of,
yeah.
and your technique's there, and I'm sure you'll be. Hi guys, welcome to Not Just Boxing podcast. We're here today with amateur boxing coach and fighter and unlicensed coach, is that fair to say? Yep. Alfie Wiltshire and his trainee, one of the amateur boxers, Michaela. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, I'm really, really good. It's nice to be here. It's nice, obviously, for you to invite us down here. So, yeah, really good. Thank you.
Great. And obviously, we're showing at the start of this your first round knockout that you had.
Yeah.
So everyone's just seen that on the video. How was that, mate? How was the training for that? The fight looked pretty good.
To be fair, the training was alright. It was good. The camp build up, good. The fight itself, it was a lot of problems. So beforehand, the gym was like, oh no, we want the 14-ounce gloves or 16-ounce gloves and the head guards. And I was like, mate, I'm 20 years old. I'm not fighting in a head guard, obviously. I was like, I've got fighters on the same show. I can't go out there with a head guard on. Mm-hmm. And so we agreed to the 16-ounce gloves. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, it is what it is. Let's get on with it. So we got to the show. I'm warming up.
Why were they saying that, though?
I don't know if... I sort of put it down to maybe it's mind games. Maybe they'll think, oh, it's an easy fight because he wants head guards. He doesn't want to fight properly. But then we got there, and the name of the person had been changed. So I said to the promoter, I said, well, look, it's not the same guy, so I'm wearing 14-ounce gloves and no head guards. And he turned around and said, yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm. So I've got the gloves on, they're all taped up, obviously the Empire Pro tape, whatever. And
is this an unlicensed show, yeah?
Yeah, unlicensed show. And the weight was fine, all perfect and that.
Do you weigh in the day before?
On the day. On the morning, basically like 2-3 hours before the fight, I weighed in 62 kilos, all like job done. And I'm warming up with my 14-ounce gloves on, so obviously the way they've changed the person, I'm thinking, yeah, we'll just do it normally. And as we go to walk out, one of my coaches has gone out and he's come back in, he's gone, Alfie, he ain't fighting. I was like, why? He's like, because you got a head guard. So I'm doing my nut backstage, I'm calling every single person, every name under the sun. And then they calmed me down and said, look, just get your head guard on, go out there, you've sold 40 your tickets, get out there and just do it. So I got out there, I was pissed off. I was nice and calm, and then because he decided that he was going to try and fuck about with it, I thought, hey, no, I'm not having this, I'm going to go in there and do it. So the fight started, and I thought, oh, he's all right, he's a bit tasty in that. So I thought, I've got to actually up my game. And then I threw a little like right hand, and it caught him. I didn't
right on the chin, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I didn't think it had caught him, because obviously where I've got like the gloves and the head guard on,
you can't really feel it, can
I've just sort of gone like that. I looked up, and he weren't. No, I've looked down, and then he was there, and then obviously I just sort of lost it and started celebrating a little bit. But
because usually with smaller gloves, when you land a nice punch, you can
it.
really feel it. Yeah. So you didn't even feel?
I didn't. I know I did him, but I didn't. It weren't even that much of a hard punch. I know everyone says, "Oh no, it weren't even a hard punch," but it honestly weren't. It was just a little step in 1-2, and then I looked up and he was there, and
you probably didn't see it coming. It's always the punch you don't see.
Like there's angles on obviously like the Instagram and stuff where the angle it looks like a good punch, but I looked down, and I was like, oh, I didn't actually. Like, I didn't know I knocked him out or whatever.
I watched Alfie warm up, do his warm up before the fight. And just before the fight, I came out when I sat with all of our supporters, and I was like, that right hand, I said it's going to do something in the ring. It was hurting the pad guy when he was hitting it, and it was so snappy, so quick, so powerful. I was like, he's going to do something with that. And then when he knocks the guy out with that punch, I was like, I knew it, I told you. So then everyone was like, yeah, you said that. Yeah, I was like, that was the punch. I watched the warm up and I was like, yeah, you're not going to withstand that.
Is that your best punch then?
No, you know what? In the gym, like I'm dropping, like not dropping everybody, but like left hook to the body. Everyone before the fight was like, "Yeah, you're gonna do well with that. You're gonna drop him." And I went for it the first round. I'll send you the video. You can put it on or whatever. But as I've thrown it, he sort of hugged me and then turned me into the corner. So I thought, oh, I'm not gonna do that again. So it was that I intended to drop him with, but then it sort of all went out the window after like 20 seconds. You know what I mean?
A bit tricky then. And what about yourself, Michaela? So how long have you been boxing for? What's your background?
So I've been boxing, I used to kickbox when I was young, very young, worked for my belts. Left that, I used to get really nervous before I done my gradings and stuff, so as a kid I thought I'll forget that.
How does the gradings work? I've never really been in kickboxing, so.
So there's set punches and combinations that you'll do on a certain day, and then you're assessed by your movements you do in those combinations, and then depending on your performance of that, they grade you whether you pass with extra stripes. And then obviously each grading, you know, gets harder and harder on what you need to do. So just as a young kid, like early teens, it was just, I was putting so much pressure on myself, and I was feeling sick before I was doing it. So I said to my mum, I was like, I can't do this anymore. She got upset because she was like, you could do really well. I was going for my black belt.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I quit. So I'm gutted. I wish I'd gone and just completed that. But I then played football for years, to a pretty good standard. And then I started getting injuries. Young 16-year-olds start coming through.
Yep.
You start getting slower. And then I started a new job, and I just couldn't fit working shift work around football and training. So quit that, and I think a year of not doing any sort of physical sport, just started putting on weight, and it was really...
How was it for your mental health as well?
Yeah, tough, because I've always been in some sort of sport. And then one of my jobs, say I was a PT for a while, done that for a few years, training clients, loved the gym. So when I didn't have a focus on some sort of sport, I realised that, yeah, you don't feel yourself. And then, yeah, when I started putting on weight as well, I was like, I need to do something. But I knew I couldn't go back to football. It's too much of a commitment.
And the injuries, like you said,
Yeah.
I had to stop playing because every week I take a knock. I can't walk for 2 days, so
Yeah.
you can't do your sprints, you can't do your anything.
Exactly, and once you then pull a muscle, you know, that's you out the game for a few weeks, you know, it can be a couple of months, depends on the severity of the injury. And then again...
What team did you play for? Was you quite high up in football?
So I played for, it used to be called C&K Basildon. It's now what people would know as #United. So yeah, it's changed hands since
That's
I
a
was
big team,
there.
that is.
Yeah, now
Is it?
it
Yeah,
is.
big team. They started
Yeah.
off at the bottom, but he had like a few celebrities in it to start with. But now, like, especially around our area, it's a big team.
Yeah,
Well,
big social
I don't know if
media
I said to
following.
everyone, but obviously you guys from Essex, so
Yeah.
plenty of celebrities
Yeah.
down
Don't get
there.
me wrong,
Anyway.
it's not like a West Ham or whatever, but like
Yeah.
within obviously like the non-league and that, it's probably like one of the best like known teams in the country because of obviously the celebrities they've had on it and stuff.
Yeah, and I say they got that massive, they're big on social media and stuff, so they can promote themselves really well. They get a lot of funding through social media and sponsors, so...
It's crazy how things have changed from like when we were kids. Like
Yeah.
obviously for us, like, you know, you turn up to a training session, you pay £2, you got a parent coach.
Yeah.
Now it's like you got Instagram, #United.
Yeah.
But it's, fair play. So
Yeah, it was, no, I miss it. I miss playing. I do miss that.
what position
team
were
sort
you?
of. So I was forward for most of my time playing football. The last 2 seasons, I sat sat on the bench. Cheers, Alf. No, I sat back more like holding midfield because I seemed to be getting bigger and stronger. Where there was, there was quicker people that could have the pace up front. So
you're just taking lumps out of people.
Yeah. I was there to kick a few people and have a few people bounce off me.
Did you wear your kickboxing belt to
Yeah, I should have, shouldn't I? That might have been a tactic I could have used. But yeah, I knew I couldn't go back to that. It was just too much for commitment. But yeah, I thought, do you know what? Let's try kickboxing again. So I joined up the local gym to start kickboxing again. Also then again realised I'm not a teenager anymore, and those kicks and moving your legs around, and I was thinking, ouch, this hurts.
And how old were you when that was
So
coming back?
I went about 29. I started up kickboxing again, and then thought, what are you doing? This is madness.
And you need to be flexible as well, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I know most people are in kickboxing, but like you can't just get that overnight. It must take years
No.
of stretching and kicking and.
So yeah, I hadn't stretched properly in so long, so it was difficult. And they was running like women's classes, but that stopped because it's a lot harder to get women into that sort of sport, especially in like a small niche area. It's hard to get people like to come along to that. So stop those classes. So I started boxing instead, and there was no women that was boxing at the gym. So I just thought, do you know what? Just do it. Just go ahead, turn up, see what happens. Started really enjoying it. It was really different to kickboxing. My stance had to change. Where I had my hands.
In
the
what
way-
sense? So kickboxing, you're a bit more rangy, right? You're in the
Yeah.
outside.
You can have that bit of distance as well with kickboxing, because then again you're going to stay a bit further back because you're going to wait for the kick. Obviously with punching, you can come in a little bit closer. you know, the weight distribution on the legs as well. Kickboxing, I tend to have like less weight on the front leg, where boxing, I'd hold a lot more weight on my front leg. So yeah, it was all those like small differences that you probably wouldn't think about. But when you actually start then learning sort of an art of boxing, it's like, oh, there's a lot to take in. But yeah, I was really enjoying it. And the fitness, I started like shifting the weight, starting to feel fitter. And it's a good stress relief. I felt like I was really getting a lot out of that. Like I'd have a tough week at work, and to go and release some of that, you know, in a safe way in the gym. And I always felt like I had something to prove, because there was always guys there. And being the only girl, you just think, oh, you know, you've got to hit harder, or you've got to be quicker, or something like you want
But
to get
that's a good boost for you, right? That's a good motivation to want to be better too.
Yeah, it makes you push yourself. It does. So I think that's always made me want to push myself that bit harder, because I want to be able to compete on those sort of levels. Even if I can't, at least there's a goal for me to kind of get to. And
I'm sure there were people there that you started getting the better of after just being there for a few months.
I think there's a few like younger guys who are a little bit shocked, you know, seeing like an older girl in the gym. Yeah, they probably completely underestimate maybe what I could do. So when you start sparring some of these people, you know, they'll be like, oh, okay. You know, they're just giving me little taps because they don't want to hit a girl. But yeah, then they realise, oh, I hit back.
Yeah, the same thing happened. I was at Heart of Portsmouth. I said it on a previous podcast, but Ebony Jones, before sparring her, I sparred a couple of the national champions there, got my ass handed to me. I was unfit. I was coming off of big sessions at uni and just not training. And there's no excuse. They would have beat me if I was fit. They're that good. And yeah, Ebony, I was thinking, right, I'm just going to use my jab, go in there for a soppy jab, boom, boom, head pings back. That was it. I just had like 2 rounds with her, I think, and yeah, she just whooped me. She's so talented, talented.
I had my, I thought I definitely wanted like a goal to reach as well. So I had like my first fight when I turned 30. So I'd only been boxing 7-8 months. So I had a coach back then. I look back at that fight now and it kills me. It was at the York Hall.
That's a good place to have a first boxing fight.
Yeah, definitely. Like obviously
Iconic.
The history of York Hall, the venue was a lot shabbier than I expected because it's got so much history to it. I think it possibly still is in the 1950s.
Yeah.
But you know, what a great venue to go and have your first fight out.
How was that then? So how many people were there? Was it packed out? Sold
yeah,
out?
It was packed out. Like event run by so it's run by Jim from Romford in Essex. They set the event up. But yeah, no, it's packed out. It was really busy. My fight, again, it got messed around. I ended up being on, I was there from like 11 a.m. helping out with some of the kids. And then I didn't get on until gone 10 o'clock at night.
Long day.
Yeah.
And the anticipation's way worse than the fight, isn't it?
Yeah. At the time I got on there, I just thought, I just want this over with now. I'd been there all day. And I look back at that fight now and I just think, the technique, your head goes, you go in there, you fight maybe a sloppy fighter that just wants to maybe charge in like a rhino or use their weight, and you end up mimicking that fight style and you lose your whole game plan. So I knew from that fight, which I struggled to watch it back because I felt like I was so disappointed in what I did.
Every first bout, even if you're brilliant in the gym, you've got people that have been there for years and they have the first fight. It's always the case. Well, not always, but the majority of fights I've ever seen, first bout, it's windmills, you just lose your head, you gas early, you don't anticipate what it's like to be in a fight. The adrenaline you can't handle. But yeah, how was that for you then? Like from the first round?
I didn't realise how taxing it was on the legs. I thought my arms would tire out.
Did your legs go straight away, or?
Yeah, probably about a minute into the first round, I started getting like wobbly legs, and I thought, what is happening? Like I thought I was quite fit, and I was probably smaller then than I am now. But yeah, I think the adrenaline is just quite insane, and it was a very full-on bout. I think the ref said at the end, he said he was gutted it was on so late, because he said like that was definitely the best fight of the night because it just was non-stop. And I think you find that with a lot of women's boxing.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but you find a lot of women's fights are so exciting.
And especially the 2-minute rounds in the pros. Yeah. That's one of the pros for it, but like instead of the cons.
It's so quick, and you feel like you've just got to get everything out in those couple of minutes. But yeah, I just knew I knew I had to fight again because I had to get that gremlin out to just wash that fight away. I think.
Especially when you know what you're capable of,
Yeah.
and your technique's there, and I'm sure you'll be saying shortly when you're in the gym and you're padding nice 3-punch combination, and when you're in there, you're just throwing straights with your chin in the air.
Yeah.
You know, like it's completely different to how your mind is. So
yeah, exactly. I was supposed to have another fight, and then COVID hit, so I was really gutted for that. I was training for that, so yeah, nearly had like almost 2 years out of the gym, out of training, which was just gutting about again because the gym's being closed. So I was still doing some sort of training, but not boxing.
How was it during COVID? Was it pretty tough?
Yeah. Like I still, I'd say I was lucky enough I worked through the whole of COVID. So I was lucky to have a job. So I was always out and still been able to be physically active. But yeah, you know, I think COVID for anyone was an awful time that we'd never want to relive or have to go back to. But yeah, mentally, again, without being able to properly train, I think everyone's mental health really suffered through that time.
Being disconnected from everyone and like just talking to people by the phone or whatever else.
Yeah.
Like even now, the knock-on effect, like even currently, like I'm still seeing people like just the effects of it now is so sad.
Yeah, and kids that were born in that time and stuff as well, like, you know,
They
a
don't
lot
know
of
any
them
different.
for months didn't see any other child or their grandparents, and
Outside for 1 hour, you'd think, you know, they're in prison or something.
That's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I knew I had to get that fighting again, and I've known Alfie was at the gym when I first started training, so I'd seen Alfie, like, you know, when he was even smaller than he is now. I started seeing him train people, and I was like, you're the coach I want to train me for my next fight. I just liked his style. He took no nonsense. I feel like sometimes I can get a bit lazy, so I needed someone to say, no, like, I'm not going to take your crap. You're doing what I told you to do, and I needed that. So yeah, I started training with Alfie to try and get ready for the next fight, and then he kind of pushed me to have this next fight. And then I've been training for him for a few months now.
How was the next fight after that? How was your nerves? How did you control your mind better in there?
I felt better. Even on the run up, I felt better. I was nervous again, just getting back in that ring, and then
everyone has those.
Yeah, and then again you remember that first fight, and you remember, you know, how all the mistakes are, and on how in hindsight you wish you were better. And I didn't want to be that same fighter. I didn't want to look back at that other video again and say, oh God, like that was awful. So to me, of course I wanted to win, but I also wanted to make sure that I showed that I'd progressed and that I'd grown as a fighter, and I'd got better. That to me would have been a win anyway. And yeah, straight away, like I look back at that at the moment now, and that was the other month. I feel so much better. And everyone, even that watched my first fight to watching this one, just said I was definitely the more composed fighter. Again, you still come out of it and you pick up loads of points and faults and stuff.
Yeah,
but
well, you're never the finished article. Like even the best pros, world champions, like you never stop learning. And like you said, obviously at this stage in your obviously like boxing career, I don't know how far you do want to take it. There's so many things on the journey that you're going to pick up. So I think celebrating the little wins and using that motivator is huge, just to not be in that position again of losing your head, or no one wants to be gassed in the ring. Like my legs in my first bout were gone before I got in there. I overtrained, I had everything. I was walking in all like jelly legged. And that was an absolute nightmare. Like going in there, couldn't even really stand up properly. And I only lost on a split, but like you never want that again. So that's always in the back of your mind, and it's such a good motive. Like people that have a win in their first fight, you can see they can get complacent, and then come to the later stages, they've never had the feelings that you've already gone through and you've overcome.
I think so. Like that first fight, I was so gassed in it, and every break I was like, oh my God, I've got to go back in there again. Like I felt, even though I trained really hard, some of it was just completely taken out of me. So I was so worried in this fight that I would feel the same. I thought, I don't want that feeling. So we had trained really hard together. I was doing loads of stuff as well. And then I went with Alfie, picking up bits.
What were you doing?
So I do a lot of like CrossFit sort of style training circuits. I was running more than what I would normally do. I do a lot of HIIT stuff. I like weights and things as well, so I do a lot of functional fitness. So just really trying to mix it up.
What type of CrossFit stuff are we talking? Because I don't know. I've seen CrossFit. I've seen the games and things on Netflix, but what would the session look like?
So more like cardio style weights. So you know, I do more of the lower weights. So you still do your deadlifts, your clean and jerks. Be on the rower. You know, mix it up, and I'll integrate like your cardio, like your rower, your running machine, in with like your medicine wall balls, your deadlifts. So I'd mix them into almost like a circuit, but all quite quick time with no break in between. So just try and push your body as much as you could. I didn't want that feeling of tiredness. I really just tried to mix up my training. And I think like from my knowledge of training and from like PT previously, I just kind of use that to go, right, I need to train to be better. I just don't want to feel too tired to throw certain punches, because then that changes the whole game plan. But yeah, in this one, I think I almost held back too much, because at each break, every time the bell went, I thought, I could have gave a bit more. And then at the very end of the fight, I thought, I've still got more in me. I've got another round, maybe 2 rounds in me. And so I was a bit gutted that, because I thought I've probably held back a little bit too much now, because I didn't
Another
want
big
that
lesson
feeling.
learned then.
Yeah. I think, just trying to pace myself better and to say, actually, I can probably give a bit more, but I maybe just timed my ability a little bit wrong. And maybe estimate she was a lot younger than me. I think I expected a lot more from maybe her to be a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So maybe I'd sat back a little bit for that. But it was good to get back in there. I got the bug again.
Brilliant. And then Alfie, for you, how was it training her, going from sort of losing your mind in the first bout that you would have saw to trying to keep her composed? And as a coach, how did you handle all those things, her emotions? And
to be fair, Michaela herself, I think she knows that she's a good fighter, but she doesn't let anybody sort of show it. So in the gym, when it was just me and her, we was doing like little, like just 3 minutes worth of pads, like free threes and all that. But she'd go away and she'd be texting me like, it felt really good today, blah, blah, blah. I'm going out for like a run, or I'm doing like, because my dad, so what I do is obviously I do the coaching, my dad will watch and he picks up on little stuff as well. And she was talking to my dad one day about what he was doing after work or whatever. And she'd gone to work, she trained at work, come and train with me, and obviously I don't do it easy. I do like the hard sessions. Obviously, they're representing me, so I push them as much as I can and that. And then she'd gone and done like another swim session or something, and then she had like 4 sessions in one day on like 2 hours sleep, and that was like 3 weeks before the fight, 2 weeks before the fight, and I'm sitting.
I wouldn't recommend that. Yeah.
No, we don't recommend it, but it's when you
can't keep that up.
Honestly, it's unbelievable the way she pushes through it.
Yeah.
It was easier for me to deal with someone like that because she knew that she could do it. I didn't have to sit about with her and say, look, this is what you done last fight. This is what you got to do this fight, because from the last fight to the new fight, it wasn't even me. It was her doing it herself. She'd created that new fighter. So
what were the actual changes that you did do?
So I got the movement, the head movement more, like off the centre line, creating the angles and stuff.
What, when you throw punches?
Yeah, so throwing the punches, stepping, like getting a different angle if I got a tight guard and stuff. And then it was obviously just more sort of like fitness, keeping the high pace, because if you let off, especially in unlicensed fighting when you only got 3 rounds, if you lose the first round, you've basically lost the fight. So I sort of said, like, look, you've got to go out that first round, you've got to have the intensity from the start to the finish. I want you to win all 3 rounds. And to be fair, I don't, considering the whole hassle beforehand, like the opponent got changed on the day because the woman got pregnant the night before or some shit like that. She ended up
pregnant the night.
Yeah,
what, as in she had sex the night before?
No, since she had a pregnancy test. I put it down as tested positive for pregnancy because of the COVID and all that shit. But
Jesus.
She had the positive pregnancy test and stuff. So they changed it on the day.
I've not heard that one before.
No, it was first from
no one has heard that one before. I turned up on the day and they said, "Oh,
she's watching from the crowd."
Yeah, we've changed your fight, and I was like, "What?" And
I didn't even know that they changed it, and obviously I'm sort of there like. Obviously, she's looking at me for the help because I'm the coach, and I'm there like I didn't even know what was going on. I
was fuming.
She was fuming, but I think a lot of fighters, she dealt with it well, because I think a lot of fighters in that sort of adversity, they would have gone into their shell, they wouldn't have wanted to fight. But she said, whoever it is, we'll take it, and it turned out to be some 18, 19 or whatever. Girl's got a bit of experience. Girl's quite decent, to be fair. And yeah, she's done all right, isn't it? Obviously, they're good enough to put. They're talking about a Southern Area title in the IBA boxing in September or whatever. So that it's a good fight. They called it fight of the night, like the whole entire show. Because obviously, like women's boxing alone is good work because obviously it's shorter rounds and stuff. But with the unlicensed, it's so much better to watch than the pros. I think, in my opinion. Because they're just going at it for free. Like if you like entertainment, that is something you got to watch because it's so good to watch.
There's no sort of ego in it, I find.
Nah, everyone turns up and everyone's just like, right, yeah, let's do it. But the women put on such a good show. I've seen women's fights like 10 times better than the main event of that evening.
Even in pro fights that I watch all the time, like obviously we spoke off air, Katie Taylor, even Natasha Jonas when she won the world title finally. Like these fighters, they're fighting the nights anyway. Even when Katie Taylor's the co-main event on Eddie Hearn, whenever she's not the main event, she usually steals the show anyway.
You listen to a lot of guys now, and you know they're raving about a lot of the pro women's fights, and you're like, there's not many sports that people will do that with the women's side of things.
But they had to overcome so much. Have you seen the what's the documentary, Lioness? Yes, is it Lioness with Nicola Adams? Like the adversity that women obviously had to go through only 20 years ago, maybe even 10 still later. It's crazy. The stuff like you said, obviously being the only woman in the gym, being the only woman to be travel the world, and like you're looked down upon. Coaches are literally slurring words at you. Like it's horrendous. So I think women's boxing's come a long way. Women's MMA. I don't know if you watch much UFC, but that is crazy. Like Amanda Nunes. I don't know if you can name any of the UFC fighters out there. Shevchenko, is it Valentina Shevchenko?
Yeah, she's class,
unreal.
But even the smaller organisations now, like I know you've got like UFC and that, but even like the Bellator One Championship, the fighters that they've
I wouldn't even call them small organisations.
No, but like obviously compared to the UFC, they're tiny, aren't they? But like Bellator and like One Championship and stuff, some of the fighters they've got, it's just unbelievable. Yeah. Like the rosters they've got now of the women's and the men's, I think what people don't realise is the women's boxing, the women's like MMA and stuff, it's boosted the men's as well, because obviously you put I lost her name. Chris Cyborg or whatever on the fight or whatever. You know she's gonna sell tickets. You know people are gonna watch her because the woman's just a complete animal. So you put a good main event on. 9 times out of 10 you're gonna get someone. Oh no, I'm gonna watch that because I've seen her fight before and she's a tank.
What's your favourite women's fight ever? Can you name one? Did you ever see Zhang Weili against Rose Namajunas?
So she knocked her out.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think she did. Was it called a question mark kick or something? But Zhang Weili was big favourite going in. She's like, have you ever seen her fight?
Yeah, because she
technically gifted.
She just stopped that. Joanna, I don't know her last name.
Is she the one that made her look like she'd snorted a chicken drumstick?
I remember seeing that.
But like she bashed around the head with a skateboard or something.
But like crazy, and going from that fight going in, like they were both good champions, and with UFC they beat boxing in a way of the embedded series on YouTube. Like the media coverage is so good that
even they do like the fights, like the Ultimate Fighter and stuff. I think, to be fair, boxing needs something like that to keep up with how well MMA is doing within views, because the money, everyone knows the money's in boxing more, but I think the viewership in general is with MMA a lot more, because people like seeing the kicks, they like seeing the groundwork or whatever, but it's the promoting that in itself, like the Ultimate Fighter and stuff like that. You've got 12 fighters going in. You don't get that in boxing.
We got the boxer tournaments. We don't really have it's more a reality TV show, isn't it? Seeing the personalities.
You want to see the insights into what they're doing in like a house or whatever. It's like, because I've watched like pro boxers and stuff. No disrespect, but everyone's got the same story. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I'll come up from nothing. I was on the streets. It's nowadays. It's almost read from like a script. There's no everyone's either got my parents had the money to get me into the gym, or it's I chose the gym because otherwise I was going to go kill someone. It's the same script now. When you go into like Ultimate Fighter and stuff, you've got people coming from like farmlands and stuff, kicking animals and like pigs and stuff, so like kicking people. But you get that sort of difference other than just boxing, where it's two different stories really. It's like there's one or the other.
I like the vlogs, the day in the life. Just to see how they are as a person before they get into the ring or the octagon. You've already picked who you want to win just because of like whatever you've seen.
Story,
like what's in it? Was it Rose Namajunas? I think she was in like some ice bath. She lives in like Antarctica pretty much. Like, I don't know what state it is, but it's Baltic. And like you just see all the clips of her doing the ice baths and chatting with her husband and going on, and you just think, oh, she's sick.
Yeah.
And in boxing, it's only until you get to the top level and you get like
the match room behind the scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
But even then, it's still scripted to an extent where they've still got to make sure that the people viewing it want to buy the tickets. You're not going to see. You're not going to. It's like most of the arguments and stuff that you see, but people don't necessarily want to see what it's like from waking up to like going to bed. Like that's what I like about boxing as well. You've got an unlicensed amateur fighters like us, and then the pros. It's a completely different lifestyle from amateurs from the unlicensed into amateurs and the amateurs into the pros. People don't get to see none of it.
What is the difference? Because I've never been an unlicensed. I've never even been to an unlicensed show.
With the pros, you train up twice a day, strength and conditioning, obviously the cardio, boxing, whatever. With the unlicensed, obviously it's near enough the same thing. With the amateur, with the unlicensed, it's a lot more people have jobs in the day. I'm not saying amateur people don't. But with a lot of amateur people, it's funded for them if you're at a decent level or whatever. If they know you're going to go far, it's all sort of like the gyms do whatever they can.
Only really like the Team GB squad.
Yeah, but like even like I know some gyms like the amateurs. Some of their stuff's paid for, the travel's paid for, the cards are paid for, stuff like that.
They must be really lucky.
Yeah, some of them don't get me wrong. Some of them are good, but like with like the unlicensed and stuff, you have people like Michaela, for example. You get people coming in from like night shifts and day shifts doing like not sleeping for like
people
2 days.
coming in pregnant.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but it is stuff like that with the unlicensed people. It's looked down upon like, so if you go to like the British Boxing Board of Control to get a pro license, whatever, for coaching or to fight, it says in the in interview or whatever, you're not allowed to attend unlicensed shows because it's looked down upon. But what they need to realise is there's decent fighters that have come from the unlicensed scene, and there's a lot of fighters from the kickboxing scene that have come through, like George Groves, Dillian White, Alexander Povetkin, people that have kickboxed before.
We've had quite a few unlicensed fighters on.
Yeah. But people need to realise some of the unlicensed fighters, when they turn into the pros, they're hungrier than most of the pros because we haven't had the experience of going on to all these shows, or it's always been ticket sellers and stuff like that. Someone like our coach, Tom Barker, he can do like 100 tickets a fight, and you'll struggle to find some pros do like 2,000, like Johnny Fisher. But a lot of the pros, some of them struggle to like 80 and stuff like that.
Have you seen his dad on Instagram?
Oh,
as well?
It's funny. And TikTok as well. The TikTok's ridiculous, isn't it? But,
yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Yeah, like I'd say with unlicensed, the only thing that I have seen is there's mismatches, the weights, the things like that. I'm completely against for your own safety. Yeah. And like you said, already being played about and the changes in the amateurs, it's all by the book, and that's what I prefer just for your own sake. Like if I was a coach and I had 20 fighters underneath me, and I didn't know what their opponent's going to be like. They could be, have 15 kilos on them. Like that to me is like it's someone's safety, and that's what I don't like. But I guess depending on where you go, certain promoters, you're probably going to get quite good unlicensed shows.
Please don't get me wrong. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit with what I've said, but I've got to say it anyway. Some unlicensed shows, some of them are disgraceful. Some of them are really good. Like you've got Golden Gloves, IBA. They're good, but obviously I'm not going to say the shows that are bad for obvious reasons. But some of them are dreadful. Like the weights, 10 kilos, 12 kilos. You get people coming in that are carded amateurs fighting on the unlicensed. Like we had a boy that fought on the show, and the kid that he fought was a licensed amateur from a very good amateur gym. And it's almost like our boy's good, but you're never going to win in that sort of aspect because the kid's got however many amateur fights under his belt. And stuff like that. But
some people that will fight under a different name.
Really?
As well, which means it kind of wipes their record. You might not find out until afterwards that actually you fought someone with a completely different record than what they've come in as. You have to be careful because there is sometimes that sort of stuff does go on as well.
That actually still happens in the pros in a lot of certain third world countries, not even third world now, but like in a lot of countries, the pros you can really mimic fights and Mexico's known for you can have a guy that's had like 8 losses on his record, but he's an ex-Canelo.
Let's talk about Canelo. Apparently, they lost 10 fights when he just turned 16 or whatever. Apparently, his record's 10 fights more than it actually is because they lost the records or some crap. But it's all like Mexico stuff like that. But
Manny Pacquiao in the Philippines.
Yeah. But a prime example of what Michaela said about like fighters lying about stuff. So one of my fighters. He's 50 years old. He fights K1s. He's kickboxing, but he's like knees and leg kicks and stuff like that.
How old?
50.
50. Fair play.
Yeah.
Nice.
Funny thing is, my dad as well. So where I coach him, obviously I'm not his head coach. I tell him what to do, and it's quite fun, to be fair, sometimes. But
Is he fighting other guys his age? Yeah.
no. This is what I'm. So
No.
he fought, last fight he had was 4 years ago. So don't get me wrong, the promoter, she's a lovely woman. She had no idea about it, and we spoke. She had absolutely no idea. We've seen the messages and stuff. So the man had lied. The man had texted the woman directly or whatever. I might be a little bit wrong, but he'd text the woman saying, he hasn't had many fights. He's had 1 or 2 fights, whatever. He's in his mid-20s, and at this point my dad was like 45. He was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it, whatever. My dad's game for anybody. And honestly, I'm not saying
My dad will beat your dad.
No, but everyone will say, like, my dad, for his age, he's
Has he had it his whole life?
No, he started after me. Because
okay.
he wanted to get into it to see what I was going through, but the person that he fought, he'd come under a different name. He'd lied about the record. It turns out he was actually a pro K1 fighter. He'd been in the England national team in Malta fighting boxing. He was a champion or whatever, K1 stuff like that. And he'd had like 10 pro fights. I don't know how many he'd won, but it's beside the point. And he thought he's gonna knock my dad out with 20 years or whatever on him, all that experience, and my dad took him to points still, and the geezer just about won. So the geezer's an idiot, you know what I mean? But I don't have anything. No one has anything to do with that person now. But that's what you sort of get in some shows. You get people lying, and the promoters can't do nothing about it because they don't know. Like I've seen it before.
They should do background checks. Like, everyone's got social media now. Everyone's got whatever. Like, for example, that guy.
But
he's obviously going to have.
He's used 3 different names.
That's crazy.
What with that we know of, and he's had however many fights, and obviously goes on Facebook saying it's some lad, he's going to knock them all out. But you're fighting people that haven't even fought. Do you know what I mean?
They should get some kind of system in the unlicensed. Like, obviously, I know it is unlicensed, but if they had some kind of actual system where you do have to sign, do have to have your basic resume.
You should have identity checks. Like, everyone's got a passport. Do you know what I mean? You can't forge a passport. You can, but you can't. But
or driving license or something like that. There still needs to be some sort of regulation because
it's not hard,
it's not fair when little things like that come through because you're fighting that person. Then it's even less of a fair fight than you thought you was going into and. Yeah, there needs to be some sort of checks.
One thing for sure, it makes you a lot more tough. Like, let's say you go into the pros from the unlicensed, and you've just fought anyone. Like,
you don't really. So when you see someone that unlicensed into the pros, I don't care who they're fighting. They want the experience, they want the opportunity, they're game for it because they have just gone in there with people 6 kilos over the weight. But at our sort of level, when you're putting all that money in, or when people pay me to coach them or whatever. If I've done it with Michaela, for example. If the fight is wrong and it's not what she wanted or whatever, I do give the money back to some people because that's not what I'm trying to promote in my own thing of, you can have all these dodgy fights. I want you to have a fair fight. If I'm not in control of that, they get the money back. I'm not. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So as a coach, how long have you been coaching? We're going to have obviously another podcast soon with Charlie. You've got how many people are you coaching at the moment? What's your week looking like? So
to be fair, I don't want to say the exact hours that I'm doing, but on a good week I'm doing over 30 hours. I've got about 4 or 5 fighters, K1, Thai boxing, kickboxing, stuff like that. I've got every.
How do you deal with all the styles? Like when I was in Thailand and I tried Muay Thai. It was so difficult with the stance and having that leg up.
I've been doing it I started kickboxing, like same as Michaela. I started kickboxing and stuff like that. I got my black belt and stuff after like 5-6 years, and I started coaching the kickboxing. And I started coaching the boxing. I went out to Thailand twice for 3 weeks at a time to learn obviously the Thai boxing and stuff.
Where to?
Koh Samui.
Okay.
So I went to Koh Samui and I went back to Bangkok and I trained in the Yokkao gym.
Chai,
Singdam, stuff like that. That was good. So I was all watching as I'm doing the pads and stuff. It was the worst experience of my life.
Did you see any of the weird shows out there? Like,
we went. So that's a story actually. We went to one of the shows in Koh Samui, and the fighter had dropped out last minute. So they called the geezer up, and he was in bed to go to work the next day. They called him up and said, "Yeah, we'll give you however much baht." Obviously, there's currency in Thailand. I don't know.
Probably about 100 quid.
Yeah, something like that. And he got in there, and he got dropped in the second round with a knee to the body. Yeah, I think he'd cracked a rib or something. It was bad. And obviously, everyone's ringside betting on it. All the gangsters, like the guns out and all stuff like that. No, but
what stadium was that? Do you remember the name of it?
About 4 or 5 years ago. I couldn't remember now. But it's probably I think it was the main one in Samui. But Yeah, he got dropped with a knee to the body, and obviously everyone's bet on this geezer to win because it's a tie against like a foreigner. Obviously, all bet on him. And he got dropped in a second, and everyone, they're all jumping in the ring, throwing the money about, trying to get him up to go for a third round. Because obviously they've all lost the money. They're all throwing money and saying, "Get up!" He was done. He was out on the floor. Do you know what I mean?
Muay Thai is something special, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it's ridiculous.
It's a complete different, like the styles in it where you just stand and trade and you sort of take it in turns to punch each other. And it is. And have you seen much of John Wayne Parr?
Yeah, I'm big fan. Yeah,
I spoke to him a few times. We asked him, what advice have you got? We put up a post, and what a cool, genuine guy. Like the stuff he's. Have you seen his documentary as well?
Yeah. He's whenever you watch a documentary or a film that he does, or even on Instagram, he's always got time for people, and he'll take you through every single thing that he does.
He's still fighting. He's probably as old as your dad, isn't
he? I think the last fight he lost. And then the fight before that, I think he got knocked out against Nicky Holston.
Was that in an MMA fight?
Yeah, it was at one championship, but it's Thai boxing, but with the 4-ounce gloves. But for everyone that doesn't know, that Nicky Holston is also like a world level fighter, one of the best fighters to really see do it.
Was he a bit older as well, Nicky?
I don't know how old he is. I think he's getting on a bit now, but he's not at the same age as obviously like John Wayne Parr.
I think John's had like two hip
he
replacements,
had the hip replacement. I think he had the hip replacement just before, or not just before, but before the camp started for the Nicky Holston fight. But I think he's on something like 100 and something fights now, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think.
Oh no. What most Thai people have like up to 200 fights by the time they're 20.
Well, when I was in Bangkok, I was in a hotel. And there was some geezers wearing Thai shorts, so obviously we all went up to talk to him, thinking, we'll have a chat with him and stuff. Turns out he was like 16, he's got scars all over his eyebrows, where he's been elbowed to shit. He did up 200 fights by the time he was 16, but some of them, so my dad goes out there to train.
They have to do it for money though, that's
the thing. Because they fight for the village and that, so my dad went out there to train last month or the month before, and he said there's 5 and 6 years old in the gym, no head guard, no gum shield, no pads, just elbowing each other in the face. But that's their national sport out there. It's like you
Different
get
class, isn't
you
it?
get 5-year-olds here playing football with like no shin pads. You get 6 years old out there fighting with no shin guards. So it's a different world altogether.
They're a different breed.
Yeah. It's the best to do it, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, when I was in Tiger, obviously they have a lot of the UFC guys go there. But like, it's crazy how some of these people, they'll be drinking beer in the day, playing chess, doing whatever, and then they'll go hop in the ring and they'll fight 3 hard 3-minute rounds, and then someone gets knocked out, and then they go and play chess again and have a beer. And that's just their day.
Yeah.
Like for us, it's like you build up weeks, you've got a camp for it, you have your 3 rounds. Like for them, it's in their blood. It's crazy.
You seen that video? There's a video going about on Instagram at the minute. Obviously, by the time this goes out, everyone will have seen it hopefully. But it's a 4 million baht side bet on like 2 8 or 10-year-olds or whatever. So what happens is the village all gets together with the money and they bet on their fighter, and obviously if the fighter wins, they take the money from the other village or whatever. But for anyone that doesn't know, 4 million baht is about like 112 grand or whatever.
It's a lot of
so
money.
out there, it's a lot of money, and it's like 8 and 10-year-olds doing that. I think when Jonathan Haggerty, like another good Thai fighter from this country, fights in one championship. I think when he was something like 18 or 19, there was like a 1 million baht bet with him and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I think that's got to be something like 20 or 30 grand.
And gambling's illegal out there. It's
yeah,
illegal.
but
like in fights, it's fine.
They don't care, honestly. Honestly, they'll put like 50,000 baht bets on the fighters and stuff. But it's so funny to see when the fight starts changing, and they all go mental because they're all losing money. It's a lot of money out there for them.
It's a completely different crowd dynamic, isn't it, to what we get over here? Yeah,
and the cockfighting as well. I don't know if you've seen much of that. Even when I was in Bali, we had a taxi driver taking us with the missus. We were going to Ubud or something for the day, all the rice fields and that. But the taxi driver, a lovely guy, tour day.
Yeah.
10 minutes in, he's like, "Oh, I've got whatever cocks," and I was like, "All right." And he was like, "Yeah, do you want to see some cockfighting?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm all right, thank you." I don't, because they literally fight to the death.
Yeah.
These little chickens. And he said, like in his village, people lose their little huts and that over it, like their houses and that.
I suppose when you haven't got anything, you bet him with anything you got in like a house or anything like that.
Yeah. And what's your view on nutrition and everything? I know you had a nice nutritious breakfast this morning, but with your fighters, how do you monitor their weight? Are you quite strict with them?
So the fighters that I've got, I'm quite lucky. They're strict in their own aspects. If I say like I'll say what you're weighing now 6 weeks before a fight, and they'll go, oh yeah, like I'm a kilo or two over the fight weight.
Do you see them physically get on the scales?
Yeah, I
Okay,
see them.
good.
I make sure the scales are obviously all regulated. That we don't do like the cheating that some people do. Like I've seen some gyms do it. They'll change like they'll fiddle with the scales and stuff. So you get on like, I mean, it's just pointless. But yeah, like I'll make sure they're 2 kilos over at like 6 weeks before, whatever. So when we start hitting the camp properly, the weight's coming off. And obviously, so far I've been doing it a year. I haven't had one fighter, like obviously, like touch wood, I haven't missed weight at all yet. Like they've been spot on every single time.
That's good.
But it's through the training. It's through the training, obviously a bit of nutrition and stuff. But like I was having a chat with someone on Instagram the other day, funnily enough, and we was talking about Martin Clark, I think his name is actually, he's a good friend of mine. We talk about the nutrition and the hydrate checks that companies like One Championship do and stuff, and we say how dangerous it is for the body. It creates like, so the water in your brain, yeah, when you drain that out and you water cutting and stuff, it can take up to 3 days to like fill back up. So these fighters that are getting on the scales and then fighting the next day, that's why so many boxers like sadly pass away and stuff. We get like Conor McGregor, for example. I know not many people are big fans of his, but when he broke his leg against
Dustin Poirier.
That's it, yeah. A lot of people's like, but in fact, he weren't training properly because he was so weight drained. He didn't have anything in his, like the calcium, obviously the vitamins, minerals, everything in his body was so drained. The body was weak. Of course the leg's gonna break.
Yeah.
Something's gonna break when you're not hydrated or you're not fueled properly.
It's much worse in the UFC.
Yeah,
like Masvidal,
like,
he lost 20. Was it 20 kilos? Was it 20 kilos in a week?
I think
it might have been. I think he lost like.
It was something ridiculous
Which is
like that.
unreal.
Yeah.
Like, to lose that, that's
not even
dangerous.
actually, it might be 20 pounds. What's that, about 10 kilo? Either way, yeah.
There's a documentary on BBC iPlayer.
That fella that was on the scales all frail and that.
Dean, I don't know what he's Dean or something like that, but he fights in Bellator and he lost 10% of his body weight in 24 hours, and he was doing water baths. He was also doing like the Epsom salts, the towels, stuff like that. But it was so bad to see. At the end, you can see his heart coming out of his chest almost, and you can look at it and you think that's really not like healthy. Like the kidneys can fail through like lack of water. But what people don't realise as well is the rehydration's even more important, because people can die through rehydrating too quickly. Like people say, yeah, I'll eat a banana for like the potassium and I'll drink some water. People die like that because it's not correctly done.
And no one knows the long-term effects of that, because we've got so good at the weight cuts now. I mean, there's a lot of nutritionists out there. No one knows the long-term effects of it.
I think with how the world is now, if I'm honest, I don't think anybody cares. It's more just get them. Don't get me wrong, I might be wrong in saying that some people do care, but a lot of it is, I'll take the money, or this pro boxer's a good name for me. They don't care about what the repercussions are. As long as they get on the scales on the weight, it doesn't matter. You see like some of these boxers falling over, fainting, dying in the ring through like the weight they've cut. It's not healthy. It's not healthy at all, because it's either done wrong or they're fighting too below their weight.
It's the only sport that you have to get your weight down and then you're actually beating the crap out of each other. It's not even like, you're in football or something, you've got your weight down, you've got to go run for 90 minutes to kick a ball. Like, you are literally fighting to the death in some sense. But yeah, I think the rehydration clause that they've got in a lot of like high profile fights, like when Mayweather boxed Canelo, he made him, I think there was a £10 clause for the next day, because Canelo would have ballooned up way more, as you've seen in his whole career. But I think that's the right way to go. That way you have to sit within sort of 6 kilos of your weight regardless. So I think it's a lot safer, and if they were to implement that, like the British Border Control, obviously they're so hot on it, they do all your head scans and everything. If they were to actually implement that for most fighters, and maybe even introduce more weight classes. Obviously Deontay Wilder's not a heavyweight. He belongs in between.
But I think a lot of that, like for example Usyk and stuff like that, he could have stayed at the weight he was, but he's gone up to heavyweight because the money's there, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, you can always bring in. I think you're right in what you're saying with the weight classes, but I think if you bring in more weight classes, people are just going to want the money weights anyway, aren't they?
And
like,
people already don't fight the best. The biggest problem with boxing, the best don't fight the best anyway.
That's
Spence and Crawford, not happening.
Yeah.
Lightweight division, I put up a poster if you saw it. There's, you got Tank, you got Haney.
Yeah, it's like there's 12 fighters on the list, but no one's fighting each other. But that's why the UFC is so good, because there's one belt and there's one interim belt. You fight the best of the best. With boxing now, you got Daniel Dubois winning, what was it,
that was all weird, wasn't it?
What was it? What
I didn't
belt, what even belt was it?
It was a was it a continental belt? Like,
But
it was a world continental title.
And
or
you
something?
got that Lucas Big Daddy Brown or whatever. I don't know if you've seen what's going on.
Bell end.
He's a knob, mate. David Adelaide's called him out, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's blocked David Adelaide because obviously David's up and coming and he's a good fighter. But he's calling out Daniel Dubois. But one of them's got like an Oceania title, and the other one's got like a fake world title. It's a point. It's a good fight, but it's a pointless fight because neither of them are actually a world champion. It's so pointless. Like the way I look at it is, alright, you've got like, the southern areas of Britain, you've got the British, you've got the European, and you've got the world, or you've got the continental and all that. That's fine. But when you get like the Oceania belts and stuff, it's fucking pointless. It's silly. And when you get like the WBA interim or silver belt, and it's blowing smoke up people's asses because it ain't a real world title. Like Lucas Brown when he had the world title, everyone knew he wasn't a world champion. He ain't good enough. Any time that he stepped up to fight someone good, he's got knocked the fuck out against them.
I do sort of disagree. You know, I get there's a lot of belts, but in my way of thinking, there's so many belts because it's such a long ladder, and for a lot of pros coming up, like you need those little belts, those checkpoints to get to the next one. But when you are claiming to be the best and you have got a fake belt, and it is on the way, it is frustrating. But I do get your frustration, but I do understand why there is that journey. Because even in Australia, I saw some whack pro fights. There was like, you wouldn't even think it was professional. Like your unlicensed fights, I promise you, this isn't me talking bad about unlicensed, they would be way better than the whole entire pro event. Like, I saw a guy win by headbutt. He literally won by knockout, and he headbutted the other guy. Like, surely.
That's like Ryan Taylor in that YouTube fight, wasn't it? Did you see that?
No, I don't even know.
I'm not inside the YouTube fight. He's like a YouTuber or whatever, but he thinks he's like a big man, whatever. But honestly, the guy. But I'm not inside the. I don't want anyone to think, oh yeah.
Can you explain it as a whole? Because people.
So what it was, I think it's like YouTube versus TikTok or some shit like that. But it was on like some big show. He'd done a few tickets. And it's all backstage. It's the video. Like Anthony Joshua's gone into the dressing room, shook his hand, good luck and all that.
Really?
It'd be like a big show.
Wow.
And he's gone out there. About 30 seconds in, he's just gone nut like that. Stopped the fight, dead like that. But yeah, like a proper, like full on headbutt. So stuff like that.
It makes a mockery though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, like,
what is your view on all of like celebrities and mixing with it?
I don't know. Some I think it's like obviously you've got that Aaron Chalmers that used to be Geordie Shore. That
Is he an MMA guy?
So
he's
just gone into boxing. So I watched. I think it was his pro debut the other day. That was on telly, and he won that. But yeah, he's completely now changed from the Bellator into boxing and took those sort of things. But to him, for me, when I watch him, I'm like, I actually see a passion that he wants to do this, and it's not about like the whole social media side of things and what he done like on Geordie Shore. Actually seems like he really likes the sport. He really wants to get involved in this, and this is what he wants to be known for, rather than, you know, the whole social media side of things.
That's good.
But I think there are some people that just, you know, they want that name through social media, and they just want that publicity from that. So I think, yeah, it depends on the fighter and their background and what that actual individual wants to get out of it. But I think they've actually got an actual passion for what they're doing in regards to the sport, and they take that seriously. I think that shines through. You see some of the people that are just doing it for the clout.
I think exactly the same with Jake Paul. I spoke bad about him like everyone else, but he's been in the gym for years now, and he's been grafting away, and he signed that fight with Tommy Fury, an actual boxer. I've got so much respect for him now. I know Tommy Fury isn't a world champion. He's nothing like his brother, but he's from a boxing background. He can box. He's not the best, but Jake Paul is going to be fighting an actual boxer now. And you're going to see his passion. Of course, it's not a world title fight, but you've got two guys, which, I don't know, him coming from YouTube coming over, the respect I got there, it's not like you had, the two heavyweight strongmen,
Eddie Hall and
Eddie
Paul
Hall.
Bjornsson,
that. I've not actually seen it. I think Eddie Hall got knocked out, didn't he?
Don't waste your time watching
No,
it. Don't get me wrong, I like Eddie Hall. I've got a lot of respect for him for what he's done for the country in terms of weightlifting and strongman and stuff like that.
I don't think they need to get in the ring though.
It's a waste of time watching it, honestly.
And heavyweights as well, let's face it, when they're that big, you know, I've not seen it. I'm guessing it was quite slow. Lots of swings.
As you can imagine, it's literally just right hand after right hand.
Just trying to get knockout punches. Yeah, it's everything you kind of thought it was. All credit to them for getting in there and doing the training for it, of course. But I don't think it needed to happen. But even with that Jake Paul, like he started off very like social media based in regards to him getting more kind of followers and stuff like that. But I think him and like his brother, I think they've realised there's something in the sport, and I think they've realised how hard the training is to get a decent win out of some of these people.
And they've got a good work ethic as well.
Yeah,
like,
you've got
there's no doubt about that.
Some of these YouTubers, I mean, like you say, they're pumping out 3 or 4 videos a day, but they're all right. It's not work because they might be sitting at a desk videoing themselves or whatever, like all day, but it's 12 hours of non-stop graft. You are still like you're knackered by the end of it, and then they're going to the gym and stuff like that. So I mean, I haven't got a lot of bad things to say about like the celebrities doing it. I mean, for obviously anyone that knows me, I do train 1 or 2 like influencers, stuff like that, and like they was gonna get fights and stuff. But some of the influencers, like they're good. They're coming in 5 days a week. They're showing up whatever time you give them. They're in the gym grafting and stuff, and then you get some of them where it's sort of like.
People only see the bad ones and they tarnish them all, put them all under the same.
Yeah. I think if they're giving that respect to the sport and they're putting that training in, then you've got to show them some respect as well, because it does take a lot to get in the ring. It takes a lot to take those punches and try and give that out. And
especially if you big yourself up that much, imagine the pressure you've built on yourself. It's not like yourself with your first fight. Yeah. Like you said, you sold 40 tickets. These guys, they've got however many thousand wanting to watch.
They do like millions of views on like YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So like having that pressure whilst turning up, that's probably also a motivator for them. But they could probably crack them as well in boxing.
That Tommy Fury Jake Paul fight. What's the undercard? Is that Savannah Marshall?
She should be the main event. They should be.
Amanda Serrano's on the undercard as well, because I think because
she's signed with
Jake. She's managed by Jake Paul, saying, isn't she?
Yeah, I'm probably looking more forward to that fight than I am the main event on that.
Well, what's your predictions of Jake Paul, Tommy Fury?
I think Jake Paul's gonna knock him out. I'm not gonna lie.
I like Tommy Fury, but I don't know. I think Jake Paul might take it. I think it might be a bit of a surprise. I want Tommy Fury, of course, but I don't know. I think it might shock a few people. I think Jake Paul might take it.
I hope it's not a snooze fest. That's the main thing. I hope they both actually show a bit of heart and actually dig deep and have a fight. Like Tommy Fury's last fight on the Tyson undercard. It was boring. Yeah. It was boring. He looked gassed after the third, and he was a lot of hugging, a lot of tactics that you shouldn't be doing 3 rounds in.
Yeah.
You got to think Tommy. He hasn't. No disrespect, but he hasn't fought anybody of any substantial really. I know Jake hasn't, but he still fought. I'm not a Jake Paul fan. I don't want anybody thinking I am. No. But with respect to the lad, he's still got in there with Tyron Woodley. All right, he's not the same weight. He's not a boxer. But and he's past the prime. But everyone's seen that he can bang, and everyone knows in this business the last thing to go is your punching power.
But
and
also,
that guy can bang.
Tyron Woodley's chin went a bit before. He was what, at 35 going in, 36. He'd been knocked out a few times.
Don't get me wrong, he was past the prime. He'd come off 3 losses against like Usman and all that. But with someone like that, that's won 5 UFC titles, like the biggest company in the world for what he was doing at the time.
He can handle himself.
He knows what he's doing. Do you know what I mean? And all right, there's speculation that the second fight might have been a dive. I think there's a little bit in there that I think it possibly was a little bit.
Really?
But
I didn't see it. I saw the knockout. I didn't see that.
When you look at it closely, and obviously you get like the pro trainers talking about it and stuff like that. I think there's a little bit there, but all right, it's a good shot. But I think you can sort of see that there's something there where if he didn't want to get if he wanted to go the whole way, he could have gone the whole way. If he wanted to knock him out, he could have knocked him out. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's a money grab in it sometimes.
Usyk AJ predictions.
Usyk stops him.
Yeah.
Usyk stops him. I don't really rate AJ. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, all right, early on in his career when he beat Dillian White and all that, and he was a powerhouse. And then he lost to Ruiz. All right, massive upset. But we've seen
Ruiz is a good fighter, though.
He is, but he got dropped against David Price in sparring. That's a well-known fact. And David Price ain't exactly the best of heavyweights. All right, he's got a bang, but he ain't amazing. He's been rocked in the gym numerous times. I don't think his heart's in it. I think he's just there for the money. He signed a 2-year deal to be director or something like that.
Part owner.
Yeah, the guy's getting £100 million a year. Don't tell me he's getting in there just because he wanted to batter somebody. He's getting in there because he's being offered a few $100 million.
I really rated him before, but I don't know. I just haven't seen much from him, and so a lot of the fights just seem quite slow, quite sluggish now.
Since Klitschko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's been a change.
He got dropped against Klitschko, who was.
Klitschko dropped everyone since he was 14 years old.
He was past the prime at that point. We all know he was.
But that Klitschko there looked way more game than when he boxed Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
I would actually say he looked a lot more ready for that fight with AJ than he did Tyson. Like that's my opinion.
No, I agree with you. I do agree with you, but I think that's because AJ sort of let him in a sense as well. Look at when Fury fights. Yeah, Fury takes everything away from any world level fighter. To be honest, like all right, he got dropped against Deontay Wilder, but then he
wouldn't?
But he battered him. He battered him the second fight, and then the third fight was a fantastic fight. I think with AJ, when you watch his style and stuff, I think with how he is now, it'll make any fighter look good because he just there's no urgency to his work.
It's his recovery. I think he doesn't like gassing because when you see him, he can box really well. He's a powerhouse, but as soon as he gasses, he's got 9 minutes to get that second wind, and during that time, someone like Usyk nearly stopped him in that last round, didn't he?
Well, I think to be fair, give it the 10 seconds that it should have been instead of calling the fight early. I think he probably would have got a count or stopped him. There's no defence there. Even in the unlicensed level, you always say if there's unresponded shots, you're getting stopped. There was nothing coming back. He was out on his feet. I think
he had the completely wrong game plan.
I think Usyk stops him again, and I think Usyk will stop him inside 10 rounds.
I'm going to go with AJ.
You're going to go with AJ?
Only because obviously Usyk's situation is it like he come from Ukraine, all the stuff's going on, it's tragic. I think all of those things going on will play a factor in his camp. I think AJ right now he's got two good coaches. I talk about Angel quite a bit. He's unreal, that guy. I think if they're working on AJ's weaknesses and actually get him to be that raw AJ, but focus on his recovery, if they can get him to have that high output, recover, output, if they can get that back to him and actually have a good game plan, there's no reason why AJ couldn't knock him out because he has got the power. And Usyk, obviously, he's coming in a lot bigger. He looks bigger. I think Usyk might slow down a bit, and I don't know. I just think the way things are going, AJ's got a shot. I wouldn't write him off.
It's a hard one to call, but I'm not being biased or whatever. Personally,
Usyk's the best fighter in the world, really, right now.
Yeah,
with Fury
like everyone says, like Canelo's a pound for pound best, but realistically, you got to look at like Usyk. Usyk is just a big Canelo. If Canelo was a heavyweight, we'd be saying it then. Canelo's the best in the world. Usyk, everyone knows Usyk's base is the bigger version of Canelo. He's got better movement. He hits harder, obviously, because he's heavier. I honestly think he's just going to embarrass AJ again. I think he will.
I think like you said with AJ's recovery, I think that's probably why I get frustrated with a lot of his fights because you know he can do more. And it looks like he's holding back because, again, he knows his recovery is a little bit slow. So he's not giving the output that we've seen in, previous fights, years ago.
He won't die by the sword.
Yeah. He's not giving that all. And he's holding back on some of that. And that's what I think really frustrates you because you're like, you're a better boxer than you're giving out, but something's obviously holding him back.
But he shouldn't be trying to play chess with the chess champion,
No.
Usyk. Usyk's the best. He's got the best IQ in the heavyweight division, really. If he was Tyson Fury's height, he would smash Fury.
Yeah.
But he's not.
You got to think. I mean, things with Joshua as well. It's been shown quite a few times when he's been dropped or whatever. He hasn't necessarily got the heart you need at heavyweight world level to carry on. When he got dropped against Ruiz, he caved.
But
when
equilibrium side of the head, he was probably seeing 3 of him for 2 minutes.
But obviously there is that to it. But you can see he caves in fights. Usyk, he went into a shell, and then he's come straight back into the rematch. I don't think was the best thing. I think maybe he should have had 1 or 2 against anybody.
Like, he would have got slated. He would have got slated, and also the rematch clause would have had to been enacted within.
But I think that Big Baby Miller, I know he's come out from the drug test and that.
What a cock.
He's a dickhead, but I think that would have been, because that was a fight down the line, that it was meant to fight. I think someone like him, where obviously everyone knows AJ's going to win, but he's still a banger against a banger. I think that would have been a good fight for him to have maybe one more warm-up, tune-up fight with a new trainer. You've got to think he's going into this fight for all the belts basically, with a new trainer. They've only had a few months together. But like, how many trainers has he had? You know, surely even the best in the world, you're going to need more than a bit of time to get what you want out of a fighter, you know?
Yeah. Well, Rob McCracken was giving the wrong advice in the corner throughout that fight.
Yeah.
And for such a good coach, he was bigging him up, saying the complete wrong...
But he got him... How many fights did he have with Rob? Like,
yeah, but I'm just saying for the Usyk fight, and I think for AJ to have learnt from that, that will be a big factor.
Yeah.
And to have boxed Usyk now and to know what not to do, there's a lot there. I think there is a lot in his fate. He's a smart fighter.
It'll be interesting to watch. It will be a good fight, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I say as long as it's not
It'd be a boring fight now. But it'd be one punch in 12 rounds, and we're sitting there chatting up like it's fucking...
Nah, it's going to be good. And obviously, if you've seen any heavyweight, just a standard heavyweight, like the output that these guys put at world level is crazy compared to a guy that looks quite sluggish in the first round.
There is one heavyweight, that I'm going to say on this podcast right now, and in 5 years' time, I want people to come back to this, David Adelaide, I swear to God, in the next 5 years, that boy will go to the top. That is what I remember watching his first fight. I think it was BT Sports or whatever. He's unbelievable. I know obviously he hasn't fought any, like he might not have fought the best of opponents yet, but I think you can see it in somebody when he's coming through. The boy is fantastic. Fabio Wardley as well. I think that's another one. He come from the unlicensed scene, but he's doing the bits now. Do you know what I mean?
I think Joe Joyce could definitely win a title. I know he's unorthodox and he can't talk and this and that, but he's got a granite chin and his jab breaks faces. His jab.
Well, look, to be fair,
look at him against Dubois.
Yeah, he did batter Dubois quite a lot with a jab.
And all that hype with Parker, he would have stopped Parker 100%.
You think?
Yeah, I see. Even though I like Parker, I just think Joyce, he's got a great chin and he knows how to break people down. And I think he's hungry. Obviously, he's fast-tracked his career through. I like Joe Joyce as much as I don't like a lot of things about him. For him to win a fight, like he was, I think on the bookie, he was a huge underdog against Dubois, and I said, no, he's going to win that 100%.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Do you know what I would like to see? Do you know when they've done the Super Fight series for the Muhammad Ali Trophy? They've done like the lightweights and all that. I'd like to see a heavyweight version. One, because there's money
Box is
there.
doing one soon.
They're
doing a one-man
I want
tournament.
to see the Fury, everyone wants to see that. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I want to see the Fury, the Joshua, the Usyk, the Parker. Even Chisora, to be fair, he can still have a go with it. Dillian White, even. I mean, all right, he got exposed against Fury, but even then, he's still one of the top 4 or 5.
And that uppercut come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well. That was like the first one he landed.
I'd like to see something like that where we all know that they're all going to fight. Because
Some excitement.
At the minute, the only fight everyone wants to see is Usyk Joshua and then Usyk Fury or Joshua Fury. No one wants to see anything else at the minute.
I'd like to see Andy Ruiz fight Dillian White. I'd like to see how that goes.
Interesting.
I think that could be a big main event. I think heavyweights. AJ bought all the hype. 5-6 years ago, or whatever. And since then, we've been disappointed.
Yeah.
So
The hype stayed, but the fighting level was.
It dropped. Yeah. Since Klitschko, like we said.
Yeah.
So wrapping up, what's your plans the rest of the year? You got any fights coming up? What's your goals?
So just need it confirmed, but yeah, should be end of September, potentially for the Southern Area title. So yeah, give that a go. Hopefully, just need that confirmed at the moment, but I'll be training as if I'm going to be fighting at the end of September. Ready for that. And then we'll see what shows come up in the meantime from then, see how training goes, any sort of injuries and stuff like that. So I'm not getting any younger, no spring chicken.
Is that 3 freeze, the Southern Area? Is it?
So again, needs confirming. I think it's
4-2s?
4-2s. That's what I believe it is. But again, that just needs to be confirmed with that. But I think it's 4-2s. Which, generally, obviously, is just an extra round on top of what you would normally be doing. But again, just another push, something different, bit more hungry because it's a title as well. So everyone wants a little belt, don't they?
Brilliant, yeah. My biggest advice going into that, don't headhunt. Like you said, move your head, lots of body work. If it's 4 rounds, if you get some body shots in the first round, you're going to really see a difference.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Definitely. No, that's like the first goal, get there and then we'll see where we go from there.
Brilliant. And what about you, mate?
It's a tough one for the minute, obviously, because I had the last fight, and then I'm sort of trying to focus on building up like the stable, the boxers, the kickboxers and stuff. I'm talks with it. I'm training with like pro boxers at the minute, like Ernie Rutherford, like very good up and coming boxer. Probably like arguably the next biggest boxer in this country to come at like to be at a very good level. He trains with his dad. They invited me into the camp sort of thing, and like, we're talking about going into the amateurs, into the pros and stuff. But that's later down the line. But yeah, I'm just sort of trying to build up the stable, build up the boxers, get a few sponsors under me. I'm in talks at the minute, possibly with so Joe Empire Pro Tape. They have the Pro Tape, and then they have like the asbestos side of it, and that's run by Sean Butler. I'm very good mates with him at the minute, and we're trying to sort of get a sponsorship going with like the Pro Tape side of it, because that will really boost like an unlicensed stable with people that are wrapping hands for Fury and Joshua and stuff.
They sponsor all the best.
Yeah, it'll boost me and my fighters up so much. We're trying to get that at the minute. Like, we're really trying to push it.
Empire Pro Tape, come on, get on board,
Sponsor
man.
me. Yeah, we're just sort of going that direction in a minute. Build up the stable, get some more boxers, get some more fights out there. I've been in talks with Danny Morgan from Golden Gloves. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I haven't, no.
It's where we live. It's like a popular like unlicensed show. They do it at like the Mayfair in Montford and stuff. I'm meeting him July the 9th at one of his shows to talk about getting fighters on it and stuff. I've got one of my fighters fighting on the Cyclone Fight Night, August 6th. So yeah, it's a busy few months coming up, to be fair.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us.
All the best for the Southern area.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. Please like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you.